boy, whenever Connor McCloud suffers from irritable bowel syndrome, it's the world's power grid that ends up paying for it. Jesse Shade here for Awfully Good Movies on behalf of the JoBlo YouTube network. And 2025 will allegedly be the year that we will finally see production rolling on the long-delayed Highlander remake, set to be directed by John Wick's Chad Stahelski and starring Henry Cavill as the titular Highlander. But if this remake turns out to be a hit, then let us hope that its sequel will turn out to be far better than the sequel for the original Highlander, where Christopher Lambert's Connor McCloud survives to see the dystopian future of 2024, and three teams with Sean Connery to help bring down the equally dangerous threats of climate change and Michael Ironside. So let us fly off to the distant planet of Zeiss for this head-chopping episode of Awfully Good Movies. Well friends, it appears that we've reached the end of our Awfully 90s summer. And while it's been fun to escape the 2020 crap fest and relive a more innocent time, there are only so many bad movies from this decade that I can fit over a 4-month period. So for the last review of the 90s summer, I needed a movie that met all my criteria. An infamous box office flop and critical punching bag that nearly derailed the careers of its cast members and or ruined a once beloved film franchise. And there could be only one 90s movie that checked off all those boxes. And its name is Highlander 2: The Quickening. The saga of Highlander began back in 1986, when the tale of an immortal Scottish warrior from the 16th century who faces off against his sworn enemy in modern-day New York City was met with middling reviews and weak box office during its initial release. But thanks to the film's fascinating lore and its rocking soundtrack from Queen, Highlander quickly gained a cult following all over the world that helped the franchise live on in the form of live-action TV shows, Saturday morning cartoons, comic books, and a series of theatrically released sequels, beginning with the 1991 sequel that reunited the original film's director Russell Mulcahy with the starring duo of Christopher Lambert as the immortal Scotsman Connor McCloud and Sean Connery as his resurrected teacher Ramirez. However, with the movie being filmed for cheap in Argentina amidst the country's financial crisis in the late 1980s, the production's insurance company took creative control away from Mulcahy so they could make the film into a certified moneymaker, with Mulcahy leaving the movie's premiere 15 minutes in out of disgust towards the final product. And when Highlander 2 hit theaters, both audiences and critics were just as disgusted with the movie as its director was, with Roger Ebert calling it the most hilariously incomprehensible movie I've seen in many a long day, and many deeming the film's theatrical cut as not just one of the worst sequels, but one of the worst movies ever made. But with Russell Mulcahy re-editing the movie into the Renegade version in 1995, and the producers re-editing the movie further as the special edition in 2004, I'll find for myself whether those modifications can help Highlander 2: The Quickening erase its unsavory reputation. And just so we're clear, I'm only going to watch the special edition that is readily available on streaming services. I am not going through the trouble of finding the Renegade version, or either of the two theatrical versions, and I'm certainly not waiting around for the rumored release of the Sean Connery butthole cut. Because hasn't the world suffered enough bullshit this year already? For God's sake! Since immortals can't fight on holy ground, let them instead clank their beer glasses instead of their swords, and fight for the prize of the awfully good drinking game. Take a double shot when we open, just like the first movie did, with a card of text establishing the movie's backstory, which states that we've moved from the first movie setting of mid-80s New York City to the not-too-distant future of 2024, when industrial pollution has damaged the ozone layer so much that an electromagnetic shield was placed around the Earth in the year 1999 to protect us from the sun's ultraviolet rays, after which I presume they replaced the polar ice caps with a giant fucking ice cube, all thanks to the help of our titular Highlander, Connor McCloud, played by Christopher Lambert, who we last saw defeating the dreaded Kurgan and winning the prize given to the last immortal standing of unlimited knowledge.
Presidents, diplomats, scientists, I can help them understand each other.
And having used that newfound knowledge to save Earth from the depleted ozone layer, the now mortal McCloud has aged into an old man, whom we find dozing off during an opera performance, which brings back memories of McCloud's past life.
Remember, Highlander,
And that probably means we'll see some flashbacks of McCloud's days as a 16th century Scottish swordsman, or one of the many other identities he's assumed over the past couple of centuries. Right?
Remember?
Wait, where the hell is this?
Free men of the planet, hear me. You gathered together in secret for the last time. You suffer under the yoke of General Katana's rule for the last time.
Wait, I'm sorry. Free men of the planet? General Katana? Yoke? Why aren't we in Scotland? Why is this movie now Dune? Well, if you folks originally saw this movie in theaters, you know that Highlander 2 is infamous for retconning the entire origin story of the first movie and instead establishing that Connor McCloud actually began his life as an alien from the planet Zeist.
Free men of the planet Zeist, hear me.
500 years ago, on the planet Zeist.
With subsequent edits of the movie editing out any mention of the planet Zeist and instead establishing that the Immortals are from an unspecified distant past on Earth, where they fight in rebellion against the tyrannical General Katana, played by ultimate sci-fi movie bad guy Michael Ironside, who handily defeats McCloud's army in battle and brings the captured McCloud and Ramirez before the telepathic tribunal of Midnight Oil, Right Said Fred, and Michael Stipe. The three judges sentenced these two to be exiled into the future.
An exile into the future.
What?
Where they'll be reincarnated alongside their fellow immortals and fight them off in pursuit of the prize.
In that distant future, you will face other immortals in trial by combat, from which only one can survive.
Will we be together?
Well, not at first. When you need me, you'll only have to call my name. I'll always find you.
So, since I have thousands of questions about how this fucking plot works, I'll just whittle it down to a few. How did Ramirez and McCloud manage to keep their original names after being reincarnated? How did Ramirez find McCloud in the first movie even though he didn't call his name? What did Ramirez write on McCloud's forehead after dipping his fingers in garlic sauce? Why does General Katana have a hologram TV monitoring McCloud's activity in the future even though he's in the distant past? Daddy, what's Vietnam? And who the hell would think that this horseshit about aliens and time travel would be good in a sequel to a sword and sorcery fantasy movie? My god, this is like if the Two Towers had revealed that Frodo and the Hobbits were actually robots in a Westworld-style theme park. So after McCloud wakes up from his franchise-destroying flashback, he drives out into the streets of New York City, which is now a dystopian hellhole that looks like if Blade Runner and Freejack had a surrogate child through the Super Mario Bros. Movie. And New York citizens are none too happy with the elderly McCloud having plunged the world into permanent darkness with his planetary shield 25 years ago.
Are you McCloud?
Yes, I am.
I always wanted to meet the guy that turned the world to shit.
There are some people in this world who know when to stop, and some people who don't. Which kind are you? What the?
I understand, honey. I'd want to hit McCloud over the head with a beer bottle too after hearing that shitty attempt at an old man voice.
Whatever you are, Miss Marcus, you'll have to excuse me. I had some very disturbing news.
It sounds like he had a little boy punch him in the stomach right before filming. It happens that McCloud actually sold his stake in the evil company that helped him set up the SHIELD, that appropriately goes by the name of the SHIELD Corporation, which finds itself beset by a sneak attack from a group of environmental terrorists led by Louise Marcus, played by Virginia Madsen, who discovers that the ozone layer has finally been healed, and asks for McCloud's help in freeing the Earth from the ozone shield to no avail.
Something's wrong and Blake's trying to cover it up.
What do you want me to do?
Help me.
I can't.
But little does McCloud know that Katana is plotting to have him killed by sending out two of his henchmen who look like the somehow worse original designs for Sonic the Hedgehog.
Find McCloud and kill him.
But I thought you said McCloud was mortal.
He's an old man now. He'll be dead in a couple of weeks.
I don't care.
As if this movie hasn't screwed the pooch hard enough, now we have Connor McCloud facing off against two porcupine-haired steampunks who laugh like Salacious Crumb.
You've got to be kidding.
I wish I were kidding, Virginia Madsen. I wish I were.
McCloud!
Chief McCloud!
McCloud is able to fight off one of the henchmen with a pipe off a railing and cuts his head off underneath a train. And so ensues the Quickening, where McCloud absorbs the henchman's energy in a flash of lightning and regains both his youth and immortality just in time to survive an exploding gas tank. Oh Okay, so his clothes and hair are apparently immortal as well? Does he buy his jackets from Highlander's End? And why the fuck is he riding a hoverboard? His last name is McCloud, not McFly!
You bojo! Footballs don't work on water! Unless you've got power!
So after decapitating the second henchman and undergoing another quickening, McCloud calls out the name of his old mentor, Ramirez. And even though the first movie established Ramirez was dead as a doornail after getting decapitated by the Kurgan, we cut over to Scotland, where a theatrical performance of Hamlet is interrupted by the newly revived Ramirez popping up on stage.
Actually, the name is Ramirez.
Will you get out of here?
Here hung those lips that I have kissed I know not how oft.
Sir, whatever you gentlemen felt for each other when your friend was still alive is certainly none of my affair.
What's your fucking game, shithead?
Shithead? What's a shithead?
You know what? I'm fine with this. I'd be cool if the rest of this movie was just Sean Connery improving his way through a production of Hamlet.
I shall be on my way and leave you to converse with your Scot. Farewell, dear shithead. Farewell.
Sean Connery will return in Ian Fleming and William Shakespeare's Henry the 007th. To be. Not to be. Where Sean Connery's appearance in the first movie made an already good flick even better, his role in the sequel is the best part of a truly terrible film, as Ramirez walks into a fancy tailor's shop to exchange his natty old threads for a snazzy new suit. In a scene which is clearly just an excuse for Sean Connery to sit on his ass with a cigar and some scotch while still being paid obscene amounts of money. But since it's gonna take some time for Ramirez to fly from Scotland to New York City, we're gonna die! We must unfortunately cut back to our main story, which even our characters can't make any goddamn sense out of.
Okay, now let me just see if I can get this straight. You're mortal there, but you're immortal here until you kill all the guys from there who have come here, and then you're mortal here. Unless you go back there, or some more guys from there come here, in which case you become immortal here again.
Something like that.
And just when Virginia Madsen thought Dune was the last time she'd have to drop clunky exposition in a confusing sci-fi movie. And how is that the second time I've referenced David Lynch's Dune? Meanwhile, General Katana decides to travel into the future to kill off McCloud himself, where he crashes right into a subway train.
That was great! Yes!
And since we need an excuse to rip off that scene in the last movie where the Kurgan went for a joyride around New York, Katana heads to the front of the train and commandeers it so that Michael Ironside can compete with Willem Dafoe for the creepiest face in a shitty 90s sequel award.
Give me more! Let's have some fun!
I don't know what's more unbelievable, that this train can go up to 700 miles an hour, or that nobody is filming this crazy-ass train ride with their cell phone to put it on World Star Hip Hop. What with people bleeding out their mouths, babies bouncing off of train seats, and a dude's eyes popping out of his skull.
Last stop.
Oh, General Katana, you may be a tyrannical evil dictator, but you sure know how to crack some jokes.
Put all this on my tab.
This sure doesn't look like Kansas, does it?
This is no way to treat your #1 draft choice.
Even though you come from the past and have no frame of reference for making jokes about the Wizard of Oz or sports drafts. But then again, Michael Ironside has admitted himself he didn't give a shit while making this movie, because the screenwriters clearly didn't give a shit while they were writing it. As demonstrated here when McCloud is visiting the grave of his love interest from the last movie, Brenda Wyatt, who was killed by the sun's ultraviolet rays after contracting "we couldn't get the original actress back so we have to cover up your face" disease, and Katana stops by to goad McCloud into a fight.
I was ready to kick back, crawled, and die. And now I'm back to square one. Immortal. Again. Let's see who goes back after all.
I rather like this place. I just might stay.
Get off!
Remember the golden rule, Highlander. We must never fight on holy ground.
Okay, wait, we're still following the first movie's rule of not fighting on holy ground, even though this sequel has already wiped its ass with that first movie and flushed it down the drain?
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. If you don't take it out and use it, it's going to rust.
And did Katana just make a joke comparing a sword to a dick? This character is like if Thanos was played by Andrew Dice Clay. Speaking of Michael Ironside, Highlander 2 borrows more than a little from the dystopian future envisioned by Paul Verhoeven in both Total Recall and RoboCop. You've got a terrorist group trying to take down an evil corporation that refuses to give these people air, or in this case, refuse to give them sunlight. You got TVs all over the city that play news programs and commercials which give us a peek into the film's consumerist future, one of which is an admittedly funny airplane safety video.
In case of fire, place smoke hood over your head and crawl to your nearest exit. Thank you for flying with us and enjoy your flight.
And you have McCloud facing off against the heartless chief executive who now controls the S.H.I.E.L.D. Corporation, David Blake. Played here by a guy well familiar with playing jackasses, John C. McGinley.
Maybe one day the ozone layer will repair itself.
That would indeed be a great day for the human race, wouldn't it? But it really makes no difference anymore, since you built the shield to last forever.
Well, this is certainly a shock to find John C. McGinley playing such an evil corporate bastard, especially after hearing his character's exaggerated bad guy laugh. Now that there is a laugh that says, I'm going to join Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg in peeing on some homeless people living underneath a bridge, because I'm enormously wealthy. But after McCloud's old partner at the company, Alan Neyman, tries sharing with him the coordinates that will turn off the Earth shield, McCloud nearly gets himself felled by Katana in an epic sword fight. And while the sword fights in Highlander 2 may be as exciting as they were in the first movie, their impact quickly wears off when the movie heads back into silly territory. Is this now going to turn into a gender-reversed remake of Death Becomes Her? Katana, I can see my ass. So Katana decides the next best method of killing McCloud is by joining up with the evil head of the S.H.I.E.L.D. Corporation, who orders the intruding Katana to be shot down in cold blood. Again, ripped straight out of RoboCop, only for the immortal Katana to get back up and break out some killer chiropractic skills on Blake's bodyguard. That's right, I'll ease the tension out of your neck right after I ease the life force out of your body! And somewhere in the corner, Bane is taking furious notes for his meeting with Ben Mendelsohn. So after Blake has McCloud's old partner locked up for spilling the beans about the ozone layer, who can now help McCloud and Louise break into S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters to turn off the planetary shield?
Greetings, Highlander. You called?
Here I come to save the movie! Yes, when Ramirez finally reunites with McCloud to help defeat the forces of evil once more, the reignited chemistry between Christopher Lambert and Sean Connery helps take this movie from unintentionally hilarious to genuinely enjoyable, even if only for a fleeting moment.
Watch it!
Watch what?
Watch what? The sculpture!
That's a sculpture? Now you are being ridiculous. You created that monstrosity?
It was necessary at the time.
So was Noah's flood, but that at least served its purpose.
McCloud, your time is now!
What the fuck, dude? You broke my glow. I'm sorry, bro. I thought it was plastic.
Hit it, dude!
But then things go right back to ridiculous when McCloud and Ramirez get shot down in a hail of bullets while driving their car into S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, where the two immortals pop back up to life and give the medical examiner quite the shock.
You boys are dead. Larry!
And after McCloud and Louise get the other half of the coordinates from the imprisoned Dr. Neyman, before he gives us the least convincing death scene this side of Talia al Ghul, our three heroes are caught by Blake and Katana inside of a death trap where they face off against an encroaching ceiling fan. And since C-3PO and R2-D2 are nowhere to be found to save their lives, it's up to Ramirez to summon one last burst of magic and nobly sacrifice his life so that Sean Connery can go make a far more dignified cameo in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
If you can summon it all up at one time, you can accomplish something glorious!
Yes, how appropriate to break out the Scottish bagpipes for a character who's supposed to be a Spaniard.
I'm not Spanish, I'm Egyptian.
Will I ever see you again?
Who knows, Highlander? Who knows?
Ha! I'm just kidding. I'm never doing another shitty sequel for the rest of my career. Hell, Zardoz was a less confusing script than this bullshit. You go and ruin this franchise without me, Lambert. You're the man now, dog! So McCloud and Louise make it to the top of the ozone shield, and after Blake reams out Katana for failing to stop them, Katana reacts by grabbing John C. McGinley by his Dr. Cox. Oh, come on now. You're telling me that of all the modified special effects that the filmmakers changed for this special edition, they couldn't make John C. McGinley's stunt dummy look any more convincing? Finally, we arrive at the last battle between McCloud and Katana at the shield's power source. And you would certainly expect this final fight to be just as epic as the one between McCloud and the Kurgan. But nope, this final sword fight runs just a smidge over a minute and a half. How the hell was the villain from Scanners a less difficult adversary in this franchise than the guy who voices Mr. Krabs? Ah, fuck it. Just cut off his head and say the signature catchphrase already.
There can be only one. There can be only one.
And after one final quickening, McCloud jumps into the shield's energy beam and blows up its power supply, with the world finally able to see the sky again, and not a single person in the streets giving a shit about it.
Hey, fuck you!
But if you think that ending was too shiny happy people for your taste, you ain't seen nothing until you've seen the infamous fairy tale ending from the UK theatrical cut of Highlander 2, where McCloud invites Louise to join him back on his home planet of terrible blue screen. Zeist.
Come with me.
I can't, and you know it!
Sure you can.
How?
It's a can of magic.
Oh, you British think you're so much better than us Americans. But at least the US of A didn't get the version of Highlander 2 that ended with Connor McCloud turning into fucking Peter Pan. So suck on that, England. Shuck it long and shuck it hard. Regardless of my feelings towards Highlander 2, I must give due credit to the producers of the Highlander franchise and Russell Mulcahy for working damn hard to salvage this movie from the financiers' creative interference with their newer editions, with the subsequent Highlander TV show and follow-up movies all but ignoring the events of the sequel. And although I've heard the other Highlander sequels aren't significantly better than the second one, they surely can't begin to compare to the stunning failure that is Highlander 2, which takes all the promise of the first movie with plenty of potential for a great sequel and fails it on just about every level. But oh, how magnificent a failure it is. So I think I made a good choice in ending the awfully 90s summer with this deserved landmark of bad movie history. Now, if only we can get Christopher Lambert back to make a good Highlander sequel for once. More like there can be oldly one, right? Get it? Because he's old now? This fucking year has gone on too long. Sorry.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
And on the nudie watch, we do get to see the very fine Virginia Madsen not only wearing a tight black bodysuit, but also stripping out of it behind a back alley. As her character is initially established as a strong and intelligent fighter, but quickly becomes a useless love interest for the rest of the movie after she sees the newly young Connor McCloud and bangs him right there in the middle of the street. Well, this does fit in with the rest of the rules for the Immortals. They can only be killed by having their head chopped off, they gain power from killing other Immortals, they can't have children, and they enjoy having sex out in the streets like fucking dogs. Trust me, they go very in-depth on that rule in the Sean Connery butthole cut. On the enjoyableness continuum scale from Bull to Bruce, Highlander 2, The Quickening, the special Renegade Zack Snyder edition, is best described by the film's critical consensus on Rotten Tomatoes. There should have been only one. And cuts off the Kurgan's head to claim the prize of 7 out of 10. It's a perfect watch for any bad movie viewer out there who wants to laugh forever. I'm Jesse Shade for JoBlo.com, and I hope you folks have enjoyed the past 4 months of the awfully 90s summer. Now that movie theaters are opening back up, I hope everyone out there stays safe from COVID-19 by continuing to wear those masks, as well as a metal neck brace to prevent your head from getting cut off by any Highlanders. Until next time, in the words of the dearly missed Roger Ebert, we'll see you at the movies.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.